You're watching Diecast Breakdown with Chuck Ellis, David Johns, and Mark McHotwheel. So sit back, strap in, and hang on. The breakdown starts now.
Hey there folks, Chuck here, and welcome to Diecast Breakdown. I am so excited you are here joining us today. Once again, we've got back in the studio Mr. Fireball Tim Lawrence, but first I would be remiss if I was not introducing my co-hosts, Mr. David Johns.
Oh, hey, glad to be here too.
And Mr. Mark McHotwheel?
Yep, Mark something wheel.
We're still figuring that out. Last name
TBT.
But we are so glad you're here, and we want to give a special shout out to our executive producer level patrons. That would be Mr. Donald Rashik, Video Geek Productions, First and 64th Customs, and of course, Mr. Twice Diecast. Thank you, sir. And thank you all for your support. Cool. We have got over 20 patrons now, which is incredible.
It is incredible.
We're so flattered and honored that people are supporting this show. We just passed 3,300 subscribers on YouTube, and we're actually getting our first ad payout on our audio platform. We're making $12, people. It's been over 2 years, and we have made $12.96 on our audio platform. But hey,
killing it.
That's something.
That's like 10 diecasts, right? Depending on where you go.
No, not even.
Nearly 10 diecasts. That's like 8.5 diecasts. Although it would be 12 diecasts if we bought Maysto, and shout out to Eddie and our friends over at Maysto. But we're not talking about Maysto tonight. Tonight, it's hot in here, and that's because we got a Fireball in the studio. Fireball Tim Lawrence, how the heck are you? And thank you so much for coming back.
Well, I'm good, but we were just talking about Mark's last name. I think it's Mark Bun in the Oven.
Mark McBun in the oven.
Yes.
Yes,
we are.
Mark that sounds delicious.
Baby girl.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you.
On a future diecast collector joining the ranks. And he's got this epic family wagon that he's going to be hauling them all around in.
Family truck.
How's that going?
It's going good. I'm sourcing parts right now. I'm looking to put a Lexus V8 under the hood of a 71 4x4 Datsun wagon. So
you heard that.
I've been eyeballing this thing for 6 years. It's been off the freeway. I could barely see it in the back of a mechanic yard, and I was like, I'm gonna get that someday. I don't know. Nothing's happening with it. Somebody's wasting that car, and it popped up on Facebook Marketplace.
How long was it sitting?
6 to 7 years in the back lot of this mechanic place, and I've been eyeballing it since it'd been there pretty much, and it popped up on Facebook Marketplace, and I didn't even realize it was lifted, like legitimately lifted, like probably 6 inches or something. And I was thrilled to find out that it was lifted, because I've been like eyeballing these things. Like, this is one of my favorite diecasts that's come out kind of house, and I'm gonna pretty much try to mirror that. It came with a rack. I'm gonna put some surfboards up top, and pretty cool. So it's pretty complete. Got a good deal on it. Way cheaper than it should have been. So that's good for me.
It's important to destroy kids' minds with that.
That's right. Got to give them that heavy metal poisoning. Wait a minute. No. Anyway. And on the other end of the spectrum, David's got his boys off at college now.
Yep. First year of college. Yeah. Nothing to report, which is good. Good news is no news.
Yeah. You thought you were broke just buying diecast.
Gosh, Fireball. Woo. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and his son's a pilot too. So
Yeah.
you think college is expensive?
Dad, I need a new plane.
Flight lessons are not giving away flight lessons.
He's going to want a DC-10 for his birthday.
Well, Dad is tapped out.
Yeah, that's the phone call you don't want for sure if your son gets in a fender bender.
Exactly.
It was in a fender bender. Where was it? At 20,000 feet?
No.
It's amazing what a Pelican can do to a jumbo jet.
That's right.
Yeah.
Try not to think about that too much. Yeah. But yeah, Fireball, 4th time. So you're the Steve Martin of Diecast Breakdown. You've definitely been here more than anybody else, and we're thrilled to have you back.
I think my hair color's changed like Steve Martin over the times that I've been on the show.
Awesome.
Next time you get a commemorative smoking jacket, Fireball.
Jacket.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me, and love to talk to you. And the show has done extremely well. it's always neat
Thank
to
you.
watch things
Thank you.
grow, especially when it's something that that we're all really passionate about.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of passion, you've got a lot of stuff that you've been working on. I see new sketches from you just about every day. It seems you're releasing a new sketch on Facebook, and you're just constantly cranking out content. So let's talk about you for a second. What have you been working on lately?
Well, because the film industry is still suffering from the fact that actors are not getting paid enough, so they're on strike. So they resolved the writers' strike, and all the writers are getting what they need. And I came from a family of writers, so I would hear constantly the suffering that goes on. But there are those that have suffered, and I'm glad that it's resolved. The actors, I have heard some rumors that's being resolved this week. And if that's the case, then maybe all of us can go back to work and create some cool stuff.
The nanny is making it happen.
Yeah. Itching to work on something with some cool cars and give you guys some updates.
Nice.
But, we launched a Shopify store. We had an Etsy shop. We had Amazon. We kind of go through the gambit. And, depending on the jail that you're in, you determine what your freedom is.
Right.
And we determined that Shopify is really a great platform for selling the kind of stuff that I do. And we concentrate on the mugs because the mugs have a low price point, high usage value, and that there probably isn't a house on the planet that doesn't have a coffee mug in it.
My wife loves mugs. They always find their way home.
Yeah, it's cool. And honestly, that's one thing that we do when we travel. A lot of people do this, is that you find something that's based on experience. You go to Chicago or go someplace and you grab one of those things in the airport because you're like, oh crap, I forgot to get something. Let me grab a mug as I'm whisking my way through the airport. But those kinds of things are kind of cool. And I was just looking for something that could showcase the art, movie cars and diecast and my passion for design. So we have a little over almost 350 products now and in excess of 300 designs. And I've given myself an impossible goal without end, and that is to release a new sketch every day. So far I've been able to handle it without drugs, but we'll see how that goes. But it's pretty fun because you get to a certain point as you build a business, you get to a certain point where you have to ask for feedback, and then you get to the point where people are starting to give you feedback and make recommendations as to design language or concepts like, hey, if I take the Ecto-1 and mix it with the Barbie Corvette, and what do you get? And if you look at a lot of the diecast guys on a daily basis, that's what you guys are doing, is that you're doing that mashup and creating something completely fresh, completely new. And that's what Diecast Heroes is about, the magazine. And we want to celebrate people's creativity and our ability to come up with some of those ideas. And that's what Hollywood is. It's like you go into a pitch meeting and you say, okay, this is Indiana Jones meets I Love Lucy. And right away, you kind of know the flavor of the film, and a lot of movies are pitched that way. So we built the store, and we have canvas art prints, we have mugs, we have stickers, we have a lot of fun stuff that's kind of surrounding pop culture flavor, which is what I grew up buying and all that kind of stuff. So it's really fun. And I look forward every morning to getting up, about 4:00 and busting some of these sketches out and then repurposing some things that are past. If I don't have time and I've got meetings all day or whatever, that I can share something that's kind of fun. So, we get a lot of feedback, and it's starting to generate people's ideas. I've had a lot of people, see a sketch and say, oh, I'm going to build this. Right. And there's nothing more exciting than to see someone go to town on a sketch that's only a side view, because then they have to interpret the front and the rear and themselves, so it becomes part of their stuff. So
it's outstanding.
Having a real good time doing it. It's pretty fun.
And I bet you guys didn't even know that you needed that Oscar Mayer Wienermobile coffee mug.
It's awesome.
How fun is that? That is really cool.
I had to go through because I couldn't use Oscar Mayer, obviously. I had to go through and try to figure out what name you give a driving schlong. I mean, what do you call this thing? So the Wiener winner was the
winner.
Closest thing I could come up with. Yeah.
Well, they officially changed the name of the Wienermobile.
I know.
I forget what they changed it to, but I was like, really?
It's the driving schlong. I think that's what it is.
No, it's like the Frank Mobile or something. It's just silly. I don't know. I think there's
It's like just steer into the skid, guys.
Yeah. There's a lot.
It's
Yeah.
always
There's
been
people
that.
out there that are just trying to change everything and I don't know what necessarily motivates that, but nothing will change my interpretation of the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile.
No way.
And yeah, and it's fun when Hot Wheels comes out with the food cars or anything that pushes the idea envelope, right?
Mhm.
And that's kind of what I really enjoy, seeing that creative process where someone will take a traditional car like a Lucid or a McLaren or a Datsun and mix something with it. It's like, oh man, I never saw this coming, and come up with something completely new. And that's very inspiring to other people. And that's really cool.
Yeah. I'm curious, did you get a chance to watch the Hot Wheels show?
Well, I have a story about that.
I had a feeling you might.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I was the first guy they came to for that show. And I interviewed 6 times. The last interview was hour and 15 minutes. And I was told that I had the show. And I prepared for that. And then it went dark for 3 weeks. And I reached out to them to find out what happened.
Oh.
And I did not hear back for maybe a month. And then all I got was a very short email saying they decided to go with somebody else. It was like one sentence kind of thing. Welcome to Hollywood. That's on down that road. But then I started to hear through the rumor mill that they weren't necessarily happy with that guy, with some of the things, the way in which is being portrayed. And I don't know what the deal was, but I was pretty excited about it because just with movie cars and with a lot of stuff that we were doing, it made a lot of sense. And that's my world. I don't know anything about this guy, and I don't know where he comes from other than being a host.
Sure.
But that's the long version. I haven't watched it. I just couldn't bring myself to see it. So have you guys watched it? Any notes on it from you guys?
I watched it, a few of the episodes. I knew Rutledge Wood from the US Top Gear, and my kid likes watching the show The Floor is Lava on Netflix, which he also hosts. And so I was like, he seems like an all right dude. I didn't realize there was anything there, but yeah, it was fine. I think as a real car person, it's hard to watch car shows because I get it. It's a business and they want to get the broadest audience possible. The first episode, where they took a Dodge Charger and the guy wanted to make it into a wheel stander. And so they put this huge Hemi engine in the back. And so with a production background, I'm looking at this thing and I'm going, okay, they're trying to build a rear engine wheel standing Dodge Charger in a week. And how are they going to do this? And they roll the car out at the end and it sounds like it's running. They're acting like it's running. And then they go, and watch this. And these hydraulic arms come down and push the car up. It's got hydraulic rams built into the bottom of it. It pushes it up so it does a wheel stand. Like they're basically like forklift prongs that come down and lift it up. I was like,
yeah.
I have thoughts on this, but anyway, it's fine. It's a show. It's a show. It was flashy, and and the designs. The reason I brought it up is they reminded me of you, and I was like, I'm shocked they didn't tap Fireball for this because it feels like exactly the kind of thing he'd be perfect for. So well, that's something that hopefully they rectify for season 2, or they figure out a way to.
You never know. I might get a call and without explanation. There is a level of authenticity that can get you into some trouble if you don't hire someone that actually does the thing that you're expecting them to do in the show, right? So someone can come across inauthentic if they're, let's say you're building cars and they're not a builder, but they are trying to portray themselves. And although my building experience has somewhat limited my experience with working with builders and design and all that stuff, it just kind of was a no-brainer. Right. It just kind of made sense, and they were very nice. It got a little strange toward the end, and I couldn't tell you why or anything else. I don't think I pissed them off for any reason. I didn't.
Yeah, sometimes it's just you didn't get it, and they went with someone else.
Yeah, exactly.
So
right, and there's no explanation because you have higher ups that are friends of friends, and nepotism is a very big deal in this industry. So, and it's okay because it's not like I don't have anything to do. So, but I do know, Brian at Hot Wheels, very well. And I thought, oh, this would be really fun because I'll get a chance to work together. And we're in Southern California. I friends with you guys and a lot of the people that, if I was doing the show, I think you'd have a promotional juggernaut because of the stuff that we do. And it makes sense. You don't want to be just a bobblehead in a show. You want to be vested, right? So the more the show gets promoted, the better we are for everyone.
Yeah. With Diecast Heroes and your history with working in Diecast, it just seems like a perfect fit. And I'm, knock wood, hopefully not jinxing anything. I'm hoping that they have the good sense to tap you when it comes time to make this movie that they're talking about. But I'll keep my fingers crossed for you on that anyway.
Yeah, they do or they don't. I think that the game isn't about making money. The game isn't about building the cars. The game is about us experiencing as much joy as possible in a day, right? Is that whatever that I choose to do, I'm going to be happy doing it. And that it's very hard to convey that to people that are kind of in the trench where the stress level is high and where they have expectations. And that's why with these things behind us, this is not too glary, but there's a reason that we love all this stuff. And the camaraderie and the family that's created because of it. And thank God to Hot Wheels and all the diecast builders and everything else. But there's nothing that feels better to me. And I think Gary Vaynerchuk would say the same thing, is that the guy's a billionaire and he wants to go and hunt for Hot Wheels, and he wants to go to the swap meets and all that stuff. And I'm the same way. As I get tremendous amount of joy grabbing a buddy and going to a garage sale and finding something. Like I went to I had a friend that went to an estate sale, and she bought a safe, right? One of those small safes you put in your closet. And it was lined on the inside with black velvet. And they had, I think she got it for like $30, right? And she gets it home.
It's a safe buy.
Yeah, safe buy. Yeah. She gets it home and she's feeling the inside of it, and she taps on the back wall, and the back wall is kind of soft. And she starts to dig at it and she pulls it down, and there are 13 Krugerrands behind the wall in the back. 13 of them.
I mean, that is a movie.
It was like, dude, that's gold mine, literally. So that's the kind of thing that we love doing. And we are blessed to be able to do that every day. And anybody who's listening right now or watching, there's nothing more important than you choosing on a daily basis to do the things that you love, regardless of what the hell comes. You get a show, you don't get a show. You get a job, you don't get a job. Your mother-in-law says no or yes, or whatever the hell goes on in your life. I'm not trying to do a dissertate here, but I think that what's really important and what I love to do has to do with cars, and whether they're full size or they're small. It's a great way to share that passion with others that share it, that have the same thing.
Got to find your joy and keep that spark.
Yeah, I think so. And doing television has always been great, or movies, because it's a great way to, on an epic level, to share stuff. If I work on a film and like a year and a half later, when the movie's over, I can go and I can sit there to watch it. And, it's very rewarding. It's tantamount to building a car and putting that final piece on there and stepping back and saying, wow, I did that. And driving it, taking it out and taking it to a show, and every iota of that car, it's a tremendous feeling. So that's the game plan for us, whether it's full size or a diecast, still the same feeling. So,
and speaking of that camaraderie, you were actually just at the Hot Wheels Legends event, and I was very curious to get your on the scene report of what you experienced there. What are some of the takeaways that you had from that event?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that show is always great. The hardest part about it is it's in a parking lot and it's hotter than hell, just walking around but if you look at it like, well, I'm going to get a workout and sweat all day today, so I'll be a little bit lighter when I get home. But the turnout was great. There was a tremendous amount of people. The energy is super powerful. Brian is like a rubber band. He's just bouncing all over and talking to everybody. And Some people get in there and they got to kind of get mobbed. I can kind of slip in and slip out, but every now and then I'll have a fairly extensive conversation if I spot Larry or Zarnock was there. It's just some people that are equally passionate about it. The cars were amazing. The twin mill is always getting rewrapped, so you never know what it's going to look like. And there's always something new there. And it's kind of like, I think most car shows are like this. It's kind of like an art show, right? Mm-hmm. Is that you're walking in and you're seeing a lot of past pieces of art that you've seen at other shows, and they get recirculated, and it's always fun to see that. But every now and then there's a masterpiece that kind of shows up. It could be a rat truck. It could be any number of things, but you know that there's nothing on this car that was bought at a pet place. Everything is custom down to the nuts and bolts. And when I see cars like that, because there's 3 levels to design, there's kind of the level that if you're on the freeway and driving, you see something passes you really fast, you go like, oh, what was that? That was cool. Oh, I missed it. Oh, bummer. And then the second level is you can kind of walk up and you can see what it is, and you can appreciate that, 68 Charger, and it's Spectraflame purple or whatever, and it's got Hemi in it or whatever it is that comes together. But that third element is what a lot of people miss. And the third element is what I consider to be the spice. And spice is when you're making a dish, you don't want to use too much of it. Otherwise you can kind of ruin the entire dish because you put too much paprika on it or too much oregano.
It's too spicy.
Yeah. So when you pinstripe, when I've had a lot of conversations with people like, Johnny Martinez and Jeff Stiles, these guys are master pinstripers, and you have to be very careful about too much, right? So too much carbon fiber, too much, like a lot of the lowriders and stuff, they're super extreme, but you kind of expect that because it's a cultural expression, right? With those kinds of cars. Yeah. But it's kind of fun to think about how would you take that approach of a lowrider and apply it to a modern car, right? Would that work? Would you do that on a Tesla? Would you just these kinds of things? So you have to think about that third element. So if you're building a car or the same thing with diecast, that you doing pinstripe on a diecast is a little different thing. Mm-hmm. But as you design, and I try to think about this when I do the covers or the cover art for DH or any of the designs that I do, is that last part where you're starting to add some of those spicy flavors is that you almost don't want people to see them until they get really close and they walk up and they're like, oh man, I didn't know that you did that. And you spent a little bit of time to chrome that tiny little piece or to add something like, little Easter eggs in your build, right? So when people come up and they discover, you say, yeah, I got 14 Easter eggs in my car. And they're like, oh, now they're looking all over. And you see manufactured OEMs do that. And that's always fun. So that third type of level, if you're a diecast builder or you have a car in your garage, is that you build the whole thing and then come back at the very end and say, okay, what kind of spice could I add that people would not see from 30 feet?
Sure.
But if they walked up and they sat in the car or they looked at some of the detail, the fit and finish, that there's this tiny little things that you spent the time that you cared enough about, that you put 15 hours into adding some of these things that brought it to a level that you don't get a chance to see. And you appreciate those builders, Gene Winfield and a lot of the old school guys. And this show and the Legends had a number of cars like that. So sorry, in the big circuitous route, but you go to a show like this with Brian at Mattel and you see a number of vehicles like that. So he's really good at choosing that stuff so that people will really get inspired and establish the level in which of the kind of show that they like to do. So it's really fun to see those things.
We'll be back with more Diecast Breakdown after this word from our sponsors. The day of giving has come and gone, but the Diecast season of giving continues. We're halfway to reaching our goal of donating 20,000 cars around the world to kids in need. All you need are brand new and packaged Diecast cars and a local charity of your choosing to join in. Help us put smiles on the faces that need it most. Learn how you can join in and submit your donation to be counted at drivendreams.org. Let's end the year strong.
Hey everybody, this is Jovita from the SRT Jovita Show, and you are watching Diecast Breakdown.
Here's this week's small channel shoutout.
The De Leon Garage Collection.
If you have a favorite Diecast channel with less than 700 subscribers and you'd like to see them highlighted on a future episode, email us at diecastbreakdown@gmail.com. The Diecast Media Network store is here. Wear your passion with pride, featuring designs from Diecast Breakdown, flying Valiant builds, plus unique designs inspired by diecast culture from Justin Ellis. Visit tpublic.com/Diecast Media Network now.
Hey, this is Chad Reed from Round 2, and you're watching Diecast Breakdown.
And now back to Diecast Breakdown.
I like the idea that they're not giving away everything from 50 feet away. They want you to get in. They want you to, dare I say, put your hands on it.
Your eye hands.
And just kind of discover and explore. And what you were saying earlier, the little Easter egg reminded me of the Peter Brock autograph on your dashboard on your 510. Yeah. You don't see that from outside the car. Once you get in, it's a nice little surprise.
Pete's cool, man. He's just the nicest guy to talk to, and just amazing.
The reason I really liked him is because he's extremely humble.
Yeah.
Like, he'll just talk very matter of fact about this and that, and you don't get any arrogance from him, which we've all experienced talking to famous people before.
There's a few. We've been to a Peterson show, and there was a shall we say, an unnamed celebrity that was there, and someone asked, would you sign my car? And he said, sure. And he was thinking like dashboard, maybe underneath the hood. And he got ready. My buddy got ready and stepped back, and he just signed huge letters right across his hood. And it was like, and he said, and he had the camera, and he slowly dropped the camera with this look on his face, like, look, you're drawing with a Sharpie across my hood. And it was like,
not what I was thinking, dude.
Like this thing. Yeah.
No, I can never get rid of that. Just under your windshield or your wipers are just going to smear it off. Like, as soon as you leave.
Like, I don't really think that was
just right on your tire tread right here. No, please.
Yeah. But I think that a lot of people have interpretations of celebrities and stuff, and they love certain celebrities, but they really love their characters, because you really don't know these individuals. And we were going to mention Dick Van Dyke, and there's a group of people. I personally get a chance to have interesting conversations and stuff sometimes. But Dick Van Dyke, especially, here's a guy that has been professional, had his own show in the 50s. He's turning 98 in November, and we're going to celebrate his birthday by having an art show, a photography show, and which is kind of it's called Moments in Time. And on November 19th here in Malibu at the City Hall. And Dick is really interesting, because you can sit down with him for an hour, and he has, I don't know if you know how much energy it takes to stay upbeat and smiling all the time and be that infectious. Right? But he said to me that had I known I was going to live this long, I would have eaten better. And he said, whatever you do, whatever show you do it quick, because I'm not. So he's always, he's cracking jokes, and he goes to the store and shops for himself and buys food and says hi to everybody in the store like it's like a regular guy. Yeah. And Kurt Russell, there's a lot of people that are really tremendous people in the industry. And of course there's bad ones too, but who cares, Yeah.
I have a friend who ran into Kurt and Goldie at a convention in the elevator, and she said, just wonderful, very down to earth, super nice people. Yeah. And, I've always kind of really liked that about Kurt. I've been a fan of his for a long time, and he just seems like the kind of guy who just is like, can you believe I get to do this every day? Like, this is a great experience. And again, I don't know him. I just know what I see of him as a character actor and as in his interviews and stuff. But he's like, the people that I really admire are the people that you can tell they just love what they do. And that is just all over everything that Kurt Russell does. You can tell he is there, and it doesn't matter if he's Santa Claus or he's Ego or he's Jack Burton. You're getting somebody who is like, I've been hired to do this thing, and I am going to do the best job I can possibly do it because I love what I do.
Yeah. It's interesting because he almost seems to be the guy that would be the jerk, because he's been in the industry since he was a little kid, and he's seen everything, right? Yeah. But, I was fortunate my dad produced a movie that Kurt played Elvis back in 1980. And so I got a chance to know him early when I was 10 or 11 years old. And then years later, we did Escape from LA together, with John Carpenter. And, it was just really fun because he will take the time. I mean, you could stop him on the street, and I'm not surprised to hear your story about in the elevator, but you could stop on the street. He'll talk a half an hour with you about what he loves. And he generally will ask questions to you about what you do and stuff, because there's nothing worse than meeting somebody and they'll talk for an hour about everything that they're doing and they'll never ask you a single question, right? This is that someone is so focused on that. And it's really nice. Dwayne Johnson's that way. There's a lot of actors that you can stop and talk to, and they just seem like regular people, but there's a level of conscientious behavior that they exhibit that really, that authenticity gets people to love them, not like them a lot or like their characters, but actually gets them to love them to where they have these super fans that understand that they're playing a character, but in real life, this guy's really cool. He's a really nice guy. And that's, it's not easy to do, I think.
It's interesting. Oh, I've got two signatures on my 64 Valiant, and one is the drag racer Don Garlitz, because he lives in Ocala, which is just down the road from me. He's got a great little drag racing museum. He does, I say little, it's a very, very nice drag racing. It's not the Peterson, but he's got these two steel buildings, and they are just jammed to the gills with every legendary drag racer you can think of. Shirley Maldoney, John Force. Yeah, they're all the legends, Don Prudhomme, all Snake, Mongoose, everything that you can think of is in this amazing little building that's just down the road from me. And he's actually got an outbuilding that's called Don's Garage, and it's actually his garage where he's still working on stuff. But he has garage sales out of there, and you can buy stuff from his house. And he'll sign whatever you want, but if you're in there and you hand him the money, you actually hand Don Garlitz your cash. And then he's like, "Do you want me to sign anything?" And I'm like, "Yeah, actually." So I got my sun visor out of my car and brought it in when I bought some stuff from him that's actually on the car, and so he signed it. And then my other signature is Joaquin Garay III, who was Paco on Herbie Goes Bananas. He was the little kid in that movie. And I got to be at the 53rd anniversary event for Herbie. That was at Daytona Beach. They did like a 4-day thing. I was there for 2 of them.
Yeah.
And it was fantastic. And
that was just a few months ago.
It was fairly recent.
Something like that.
But and he was the guest of honor. And it was really kind of wild because he's one of these guys that he was a child actor and kind of got out of the industry a little bit. He's still out in LA. He's doing his thing. He's actually a big car buff too. I was talking to him about his RX-7. He's got one of those. Mark would know what it is. It's got like the whole alphabet soup after this RX-7. It's basically the one to have. But anyway, so he was out there. It was funny because as a kid, I loved the Herbie movies, and Paco was like my pretend friend growing up because he was the only kid in these movies. It's kind of wild to think about. Disney movies used to be all adult actors. There were never kids in these movies. Like you might get one or two, like in $1 Million Duck or something like that. But they would be like, yes, this kids movie about this cartoonish bug is going to have all these actors in their 30s, and that's it. And so he was the first real kid that got to hang out with Herbie, and I always thought that was so cool. So I had this weird out of body experience when I saw him walk over to my Valiant and he was taking pictures of it. And I was like, wow, because my Valiant was at the car show and got to drive it on Daytona with all these Herbies. I was like surrounded by Herbies, and there was this bright blue Plymouth Valiant in the middle of all of them. So he had such an interesting story too, because he basically he did it. He was a child actor. It was a job. And then he moved on, and there was issues with his parents and money. And it just there was like kind of this bad taste in his mouth about the movie, and didn't think much about it. And then like decades later found out that there was like all these people that were like, oh, like we're big fans of Herbie and we're big fans of these movies. And he's kind of had this little like Renaissance type thing for himself. And he's still out there in LA doing stuff, but it was kind of cool to see him. And he was a great guy, very nice. And I was like, would you please sign my car? He's like, really? Why? I was like, because Herbie was an instrumental part of down. Ed, and he very politely asked, where do you want me to sign
Right on
it?
the hood.
Yeah.
So
Right
he
across
sat in the
hood.
car and he wrote it on the visor. And so next time I'm out in LA, I'm taking that visor with me. I would really like to get a Fireball signature on there, if you wouldn't mind, sir, because I feel like you have been an inspiration to me as well.
Yeah, man. I feel left out. The Corvette doesn't have any autographs on it.
I'm going to write Mark McFireball on it.
That's he.
Yeah, it's interesting to me because a lot of the child actors, Tony Dow is a good friend and he kind of peaked and stuff. But one of my friends is Rodney Allen Rippey, and Rodney, I'm actually going to see him at a show out in Hesperia next month. So Rodney has had a huge background, but he had a really interesting story about his parents and how they spent his money and it was unfortunate.
Yeah.
But he really capitalized. And so Rodney is really interesting because he's become a political figure and a really interesting guy and loves cars the same way. And he was in Blazing Saddles for all things. He did a lot of really interesting things as a kid. But he tries to capitalize on that stuff and it because he enjoys it, because he likes meeting fans and hanging out in car shows and a lot of these things. So if you can make it work.
A lot of these guys show up to these car shows, and I'm looking on your calendar on fireballtim.com. For you viewers and collectors that are in Southern California, Fireball's schedule and calendar is loaded for November. And who knows, you might get to see somebody you recognize out there, right? Is that what we're kind of hearing? I mean, we've got stuff at least every weekend.
They show up. Yeah. I mean, they say if you build it, they will come. I don't know if you have to build it, but you certainly just throw a bunch of cool cars in there. And especially with COVID and everything that we kind of went through, everybody wants to get out and do things. And,
sure.
The Peterson does a tremendous amount of shows. And when we have our show still at our museum up in Oxnard, but I think that a lot of the events that are on that calendar are places that that I want to go see. I want to experience. It's not a show that we are putting on necessarily. Some may be that, but it's just nice to go out and see fans and see people that love cars. And it's very diverse. It'll be in a weekend. I can go to a hot rod show, then to a muscle car show, then to go see Ferraris at the Peterson or something like that. And my favorite car is the one with 4 wheels. So I love hearing your guys' stories and people out
Mark's
there.
over here, this Reliant Robin.
Yeah, exactly. So,
more of a 3-wheel guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Urkel mobile.
And you never know what you'll see because I was just driving on the freeway. I went to an art center alumni show over the weekend and, we saw, I don't know if, Ken Okiyama, he's a car designer in Japan, very well-known, respected car designer. He had a car called the Birdcage Code 61, which looks just like the Mach 5. But it's Ferrari based. So all the underpinnings are, I think, a 599 or something. And, just a great group of people. But on the drive out there, we saw these 2 ladies driving one of those open top 3-wheeled.
Oh, the little runabout things. Yeah.
They're just weird. Yeah. But there was 2 ladies and they were both on their cell phones driving on the freeway with a complete open top. And it was just like, man, only in LA are you going to get stuff like,
right.
It was just
a slingshot. That's what they're called.
Slingshot.
A slingshot.
Exactly. Yes. Exactly. Slingshot. That's what I want to do with them.
Yeah. They're a little strange. So they tried to improve them by putting the tops on them and that didn't really work, but it's a movie car for a strange movie.
Don't touch the dial. Diecast Breakdown will be right back after these messages.
This episode of Diecast Breakdown is brought to you by you. That's right. We are 100% viewer and listener supported, and we are so grateful for those of you who have already supported the podcast and the shows we're planning to add to the Diecast Media Network family. You can find out more about how to support this project by visiting diecastmedianetwork.com or email us about sponsoring an episode at diecastbreakdown@gmail.com.
Hello, this is Diecast Dude from the Netherlands, and you are watching Diecast Breakdown.
This presentation of Diecast Breakdown is brought to you by Twice Diecast and Dotson Man Diecast on YouTube. Please visit their links in the show notes and subscribe to their channels for more epic Diecast content.
Hey, this is Champion DJK, and you're watching Diecast Breakdown.
And now, the thrilling conclusion of this week's episode of Diecast Breakdown.
Fireball, you've got something called Muscles and Mojo at the Murph later in November. Can you hit that a little? We know the Murphy Auto Museum is kind of special to you.
For sure. Well, Muscles and Mojo is basically our cars and coffee. It happens on the third Sunday of the month. And you just when you do a show, you try to think of something that isn't the same thing. And honestly, there's a company that owns the term cars and coffee, and they're in constant battles with shows.
Buddy.
Somebody in Indianapolis who wants to do a car show at their coffee place, and they call it coffee place, cars and coffee. Right? So everybody's using that term. It's kind of like Kleenex now, right? So we just try to think of something. Muscles and Mojo is just like, it's powerful, it's sexy, and it's something that you want both of those things. But as you get older, you don't necessarily, you may lose some of your mojo, but, yeah, it's a good time. We get a lot of diverse cars. We don't cater to hot rods or trucks and we get everybody who shows up. And then the museum has everything from muscle cars to a 31 Rolls-Royce Boattail Speedster. So there's a lot of different stuff that's in there, and it's always changing. And then there's the majority of my diecast collection is probably up there. I have a fair amount here that these are all movie cars and that kind of stuff. But up there, it's funny because we have an area, a big room in the back that has a massive HO scale train build, and it's a club that rents that space, and they built this huge train with the tunnels and towns and all this stuff. And on the walls is filled with these boxes filled with diecast, right? So people will walk through the museum and they'll spend 20 minutes looking at the big cars, and they'll spend 2 hours looking at the diecast and the train.
As they should.
And that room just gets packed with all these people going, oh, look at that. And you think it'd be the other way around, but it's, people just love
yeah. By the way, this car over here is a one of one.
Yeah. And if I had my way, I probably would get rid of half of our cars that are in the museum and fill it with diecast cases, because it's the only diecast museum really is what's his name on the East Coast that was at Legends Tour. I don't know what
Pascal.
Pascal. I don't know what's going on with names. Yeah. And Bruce was there, and when he can afford to have pretty much any diecast that he wants, I'm not going to spend $1 million on a
priceless.
You can't have any of these.
Yeah.
Okay, Bruce.
He's watching.
If you're watching,
can't have this.
Can't have this.
Yeah.
Can't have this Jakarta diecast one. It's custom, one of one.
Wait, isn't that him behind you? He's grabbing it right now.
Just impose him in there.
So, it's Legends Tour, and what's nice about here in LA is that there's no season that's not car show season, right? It's 24/7, 365. There's shows everywhere, and you want people to succeed at those shows so that you have a great place to go to. And I probably have 6 or 7 choices that I can make every weekend as to where you could go. You just don't want to see the same stuff all the time. So you want to kind of spread it out and go to different places. So, or go to a swap meet, something like that.
Car swap.
Cars. Yeah. It's funny. We just had Louis Tanahara on. He's a designer for Jada. I'm sure
he's so good. Louis is great.
He's great. And he just, what a crazy story about how he basically turned those car shows into his career, like showing up and doing airbrushes of people's cars on t-shirts and hats and stuff, and ended up working for Boyd Coddington of all people, because he was just at the right place at the right time doing airbrush art, and no formal training, just out there doing his craft, making it happen. And it's so cool hearing stories like that of being an incredibly talented person at the right point and being able to take that moment and build it into something. I am continuously impressed by the photos that you're posting on your Facebook, which, by the way, folks, if you're not following Mr. Fireball on Facebook, please do that. He's posting amazing stuff. I love when you post like the photos of you at the Boss Hog billboard on the set of Dukes of Hazzard, or like I was just like, wow, this guy is like the Forrest Gump of movies. He's just like been everywhere. He just showed up and just like what an amazing opportunity to be there and be a part of so many cool things, from being an Imagineer to being on all these different projects, Jurassic Park and Batman, and Escape from LA, just all the wild cards that were in that, and just being able to have that experience, and a lot of it comes from just being willing to put yourself out there, not get discouraged, continuing to, because I've been out to LA several times, and just the energy there could crush just about anyone if you would let it, if you let it mess with your head. So I my hat is off to you for sure, because of the way that you can still get up at 4:00 in the morning and be like, I'm going to draw today, and I'm going to put myself out there, and I'm going to do my live if I can, and I'm going to post this, and I'm going to share these moments of my life that are meaningful to me. And it always brings a smile to my face when I see you show up in my feed, because you've always got something super positive, something super creative, and it's just like, all right, Fireball's out there doing his thing today. You can get out of bed and do your thing.
Well, I really appreciate that. I'm very grateful for comments like that, because those are the kind of feedback you get to help to keep you going. Because honestly, everyone has rough days.
Sure.
Everyone's got days where shit, now this stuff is just not working for me today, or you get overwhelmed, and especially first time parents can get overwhelmed with a lot of things.
He has no idea.
Yeah. But I'll tell you a quick story. It's this, that my stepson, Sean, he had a good upbringing and 3 parents that all want the best for him. But if you push too hard, then you need to kind of step back and let them fall, right? You got to let them screw up, because there's tremendously valuable lessons that you get when you screw up. And you guys know this, right? In building a car or saying something that you shouldn't have said to somebody or whatever it is. But, there was a time where the highlight of his day was driving around selling pot to people, right? It was just no direction. And you can lose faith in your kids, because you want the best for them, but they can't seem to find their way. And it's only when you take a step back and let go and let things fall and say, you know what, whatever happens, it's going to be okay. Yeah. They're going to be fine. And that's a really hard thing to say. It's a really hard thing to accept. I mean, it's actually easy to say. It's not so easy to live that, right? But the moment that we did that, then things started to change. And now he ended up finally got a job at Starbucks along with selling pot. And there was an opportunity to move to San Francisco. So he did that. And then he met a girl in San Francisco at a Starbucks, fell in love. A year later, they moved back here. They got married. They had their first daughter. And at the same time, he started exploring going into the film industry, going in and doing what his parents did. Not what I do as a designer and illustrator, but what Kathy does and what his dad does. And his dad is a gentleman who we've worked with for years, Bob Clark. He's a sculptor. He sculpted on Blade Runner, on Stargate, just tons of huge movies, right? And Sean has just had this tremendous personality, and he just really rubs people the right way. Is that everybody loves him just because he really kind of can't believe. He'd always pinch himself like, I'm working on this movie, and he does now only Marvel and Star Wars movies, right? And it's amazing. So my point is that for those that may be in the pocket right now, where your kids are teenagers and they're a total pain in the ass, and you just want to send them to an island or send them to a box with the key and toss the key away. There's an arc that's where the arc begins. And depending on how you approach it and how you deal with it is how they find their way home. And you have to establish in their mind that home is safe and that you represent home, and that they can go squirrel out of control and end up in jail and doing all the things that they do. Because a lot of them do that. I think we all I know I did. We all kind of fall off the rails and make our way back. But if you have parents that are solid and ground based, then you can make your way back, and they become a great human. And part of that, a big part of that, is finding that passion for yourself. And that's honestly, I think that my love of cars, whether full size or diecast, is what has always been the magnet that's held my feet on the ground when in the darkest of days, right? Is that I could have a really crappy day where things are not coming together. I can come back in my office and I can stare at my diecast and I'll just feel better. And you can immerse yourself in that. And I think that's really important. I think that's something that is akin or connected to the creative process. And the creative process, much like you guys doing Diecast Breakdown, it's that creative process keeps us present in the moment. We're not thinking about bills. We're not thinking about our mother-in-laws, how we're going to fit them in the trunk or any of those things.
Yeah.
So it's a challenge sometimes. Huh?
Assuming they'll fit.
Yeah, right. Yeah. They don't generally, because it depends on the car. You got a big Impala or something like that. But I've been very blessed, and thank you for saying what you said. And I've been very blessed to work with some amazing people, Carmen and Tony in the UK for DH, great magazine, and the art gallery that we have here. Yeah, super cool. Which one is that?
This is the mod version.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's really fun just to see the creative process in each individual and to celebrate them. And that's what you guys are doing here, is you have guests on the show and you get to celebrate what people are doing. I love talking about Lewis because he is a very top quality designer. You can see it in his work. You can see it in his attitude. You can see it in how he connects with people online. And you're setting the trend. You're saying that this is what's possible.
Every one of them.
If you guys step up and don't be lazy, just get in there, find your niche, and make this podcast the absolute best. You screw every other podcast. Who cares what anyone else is doing? Just make this thing the best it possibly can be.
What other podcast?
There you go.
If there was one. If there was one.
I've never heard of any other good podcasts.
Yeah, and I'm glad we brought up DH because I wanted to ask you about that. It was funny because I was actually just looking at this, and on the cover page of this, we will, as of a few weeks from now, have everybody on this page, on the cover page, will have been on Diecast Breakdown, because we just got Larry, thanks to Tony. He put in a good word for us and helped us get Larry on the show.
You lied. You straight up lied.
Tell when you see Larry, tell him that I said, "Get a job, you bum."
Get a job, you bum. I'm writing that down. Get a job, you ugly bum.
Whoa.
You ugly bum.
Yeah.
What? I didn't say that.
Paraphrased.
Game of telephone.
So you guys, and again, like Tony and Carmen and you, in many ways influenced the creation of Diecast Breakdown, because I was like, well, there's other people out there creating this stuff and they're doing this. And, it was them doing, you all doing the magazine, and Mark was doing his podcast project. And I was going, and I had been in media production for a long time and got out of it, and I was doing pencil pushing jobs, and I was just like, man, I miss that. I miss the creative flow, and that was where the channel came from. And then I was like, I want to take my channel and turn it into something more. And so the fact that there was this great magazine out there, and that Mark was doing his thing and David's making these great videos, and I was like, all right, I need to come in here and raise my bar and continue to improve myself. And I think that's a great thing. Not that it's a challenge or a competition. I mean, it's a challenge in a way, because it is seeing that and going, okay, well, they can reach for that. I want to reach for that level as well. And how do I get there? And what do I do with the stuff that I have? And I started this with a 10-year-old Mac Mini and a cell phone, and I'm still shooting most of my stuff on a cell phone. I've got a better computer now, and we're doing stuff with this, and we've got people supporting the show now, and we're getting really wonderful people to come on the show, and it's really awesome. Like you said, the community is really coming together. I see this great magazine that's being done by my friends, and I go, I want this. I buy it, and I say, thank you very much, Tony and Carmen and Fireball, and I'm going to enjoy this magazine now. But what's the relationship like on the other end? What are you experiencing from the community? What are they saying to you on this? And what is that, and how is that affecting what you're doing with the magazine?
Well, the thing about when I first started out of school, I got hired by Imagineering, and I learned very quickly the power of theme. And it's evident when you go to Disneyland or some of the theme parks that you go to that are very successful, is because people love the experience that they get when they see a theme at the level of that tertiary system, right? So that for the first
Sure.
two levels are very strong, but there's a third level when you're in the detail and the muck, right? If you've been to Disneyland and gone to Star Wars, if you haven't done that, you could literally spend the entire day in Star Wars land because it's so incredibly detailed, right?
Oh yeah.
Especially if you're a Star Wars fan. If you're a Star Wars fan, that you're just like drooling and licking the walls and it's like, oh, this is amazing, right?
Yeah, licking the
but
walls.
theme was extremely important. So I think that in what's really important in with the concept of theme is that our job is to drive that creative process forward, right? And if you are driving that forward, then you're in a position to say that we have to create theme because without you guys building custom cars, the magazine doesn't exist. So there's no one to celebrate. So in creating a concept, the covers and the thematics throughout is that we always have essentially theme meetings. So we kind of come up with something that is that fish out of water kind of experience, right? So that you would never take Diecast and necessarily think about the Old West or putting those things together. It's like Hot Wheels does a great job at creating all kinds of unique vehicles out of toilets and food products and a lot of this stuff, right? It's like, we can turn anything into a diecast. And I think our goal with the journal is to exhibit that on a very detailed level, right? Is that we want to come up with a theme that people will get really excited about because it means that they're going to build something to support that ideology, right? So that if we can take the idea of, let's say, minerals, okay, we're going to, and that's actually not a bad idea. So you can take the idea of rocks and natural materials, and now we're going to mesh that with diecast, right? And you guys are going to make rock. So exactly. Cars that look like that are built out of trees and rocks and El Kappa car. I mean, there's all kinds of neat things that you can do. So our job as a creative medium, we have our initial meetings, is to think about the longevity of that
soap
theme,
diecast,
so that we can cut it. And by the end of the meeting, if we're excited about putting this thing together, we know that people are going to get excited about doing the builds. And it's endless, right? It's endless because you can mix Swedish fish and diecast. There's anything that you can't put together. Whether it'll be successful or not and have that longevity remains to be seen. That is my approach in film. Is that someone asked me yesterday about the Batmobile? I did an article that's coming out in some magazine, and I said I'm not creating a car that is the Batmobile. My job wouldn't be to read the script, and because in the first Batman movie, it said it was large and black. That was the only indication what the Batmobile was. The goal wasn't to design a Batmobile. The goal was to design a car that Batman would drive. And there's a distinct difference between those two because Batman is a character that we identify with. We know what he is. We know what he isn't. He doesn't wear green. He doesn't like carrots and celery. There are certain things that Batman is and certain things that he isn't. And you have to identify that character and it's as simple as Dwayne Johnson is in this new movie. I did a movie called Faster with Dwayne Johnson. We had to think about what would be the automotive version of not that character, but of Dwayne Johnson, because everyone exemplifies with that, right? And we ended up choosing the Malibu SS that was matte black with white stripes. So there was a little tiny bit of flash on him, but it's still like all brute force, blunt force trauma in a car, right?
All business.
And that kind of thing is very important. So theme is a multi-billion-dollar business when it comes to movies like Star Wars and Marvel films and Disneyland. Theme is very powerful. I was a designer on Steven Spielberg's Dive restaurant. If you guys remember that, it was a restaurant that was supposed to be like going into a submarine, and it was. But I went to the restaurant like 12 times before I realized it was a submarine sandwich shop. I didn't make that connection. But thematically, it was really great. But the food was terrible, so it didn't last because you had to make delicious stuff on top of the theme, right? But anyway, so that's kind of how our approach with the magazine is, and because it's really important for us to not just have people send in cars, but to influence change, influence that creative process into an arena that it doesn't exist. And in order to do that, it takes time. You really have to jump in and say, okay, no one says, hey, let's do something we've never done before, right? That's anyone can say that easily, but it's a challenge. You have to really kind of think it through and work together. And I'm very grateful that Carmen and Tony let me kind of take the lead on this, on how we can explore that, because that's kind of my forte. Their strength is their ability to put together a journal that's cohesive and beautifully done, and the quality is amazing. And to reach out to all these people, I mean, their job is significantly more detailed than mine is. But I tend to try to set the pace and the trend as to what the design could be conceptually. And sometimes they'll say, yeah, that works. Or sometimes they say, yeah, I don't think that's as exciting. So we have some really fun, good creative meetings, and we welcome ideas. So if someone out there has a really good idea that would influence a 80-page journal of creative builds, we want to hear that, because we're not the only three peas in the pod. It's a large group. So that's kind of how we approach it.
Sure.
Fireball. I love all that, because Star Wars works. I mean, Disney works because once you transport someone mentally, then they can really dive in and immerse themselves into all the intricacies that you see at the park, where every bolt has a Rebel insignia on it. They can get past, okay, this is still Disney, but there's a Star Wars theme, whereas I feel like I'm on freaking Tatooine right now. Yeah. And the same with the Diecast Heroes build off. What's cool about that, personally, as a builder, when I'm doing a custom, if you sit me down and say, come up with a custom, it's hard.
Tatooine.
Like, it's infinite. Yeah. I don't know where to start. When you hand me a theme and you say, we are doing 80s European sport cars, make it a rally, I can go crazy.
Yeah. You know what helps? Because theme is based on story, right? Everybody loves story. We're sitting here talking and we're telling stories. And this is why, if anybody continues to listen to us, God forbid, they're still here listening to us,
cars,
is that it's really there you go. What Disney does best is they have the ability to tell story through visuals, right? And absolutely. And I implore anybody who is going to do a custom build for themselves, before they pick out some car and just say, oh, that's cool.
I don't know why. I don't know why they would.
They think about, what story do they want to tell with this car, right? And that helps a lot, because when you start to make that connection with yourself and the stories that you've gone through yourself and you can experience, then you know what that story is and what it isn't, in the same way that you describe, like let's take a character that doesn't have a car, right? If you think about it, one of your favorite movie characters that you love but doesn't have a car, if you were to make a car for them, you would start to know what it is and what it isn't, and that would evolve and grow. In fact, that's a really great theme for DH, right? Is to pick movies that we all love but didn't have cars in them, and to create a car for them. And exactly. It's not that tough. He needs a car, man. Yeah. So what are you going to
Washington?
Yeah.
There's a car, Denzel.
He's good.
Yeah.
Hey, the Malibu and Training Day car enough for movies.
And at the same time, you can come up with your own story. You can mix things together. You can take Indiana Jones and I Love Lucy, put them together and create Indiana Lucy.
Yeah.
And now she's got a vehicle, right? And you'd be amazed. I mean, you guys know the story of the last Batmobile. You guys hear that?
Refresh us.
Okay, so there's a guy, I forget his name, but he's on Instagram and he makes these 3D models. He's a designer, makes 3D models of cars, and he decided to do a Batmobile. And the production crew saw what he created that he posted on Instagram, and they said, hey, that's our car. That's our Batmobile.
Yeah.
And now, cut to a few months later, he's in a shop in LA building that car that was a CG model on his Instagram, right? So you never know where things are going to lead. But what you do know is, if you do nothing, you'll go nowhere, right? So there's no wealth without risk, right? So you got to put yourself out there. You got to do this show and do it crappy first in order to do it well. And the way it's doing better is because people are engaged. People listen and they enjoy it, and they feel inspired to go back and do their builds and do their stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's exciting to see what people come up with. I'm grateful to get up every morning and to say I got a car museum. I got a gallery that has amazing people with their art to be able to display and the things that you get to do. And you've got to be grateful for those things, because tomorrow you may not be here. Right. So if you're waiting on buying that expensive diecast, go to the show and just get it.
Do it.
Right.
Do it.
Do it. Buy that Spectraplane teal charger or whatever it is that you're missing.
Get two. One to crack open too.
But I experienced that as a kid. My mom, we had 5 kids in our family, and my mom would always go and have custom cakes made for us for our birthdays. And I would always get a cake that had Hot Wheels on it, because she knew I loved that. It would it'd be a big square cake with a racetrack on it. And I'm like, I don't care about the cake. It's like, give me those cars. I couldn't wait to pull them off and lick them clean and then go play with them.
Did it say Hot Wheels, or was we have Hot Wheels at home type of thing? Or just look what you did, you little jerk.
No, it said happy birthday, you little jerk, or something like that. Crunchy. Yeah. There's little chunks of glass embedded in the cake and stuff. It was great. It was awesome.
Gotta keep them on their toes.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
You kids are getting puffed.
Hey, Fireball, any recent Hollywood diecasts that has caught your eye? Any new stuff?
Yeah, it's funny. Well, the last thing I picked up, I think, was the white Batmobile. I haven't seen the latest Flash movie, so I don't know whether there's a white Batmobile. I don't know why they would do that, but it's yeah.
Why not? Ran out of ideas.
You bought it, didn't you?
Yeah, exactly. Why not? Yeah,
yeah, got you, sucker.
Right, sucker. Yeah, got your $2. Yeah, so so it's just always fun. Like, for some reason, and I think when that Batman movie came out, the only thing we had ever really seen before that was the 66 TV show, and it was campy and stuff. So people got that. It made a connection with people because anticipation was large, and the movie did well enough, and Batman fans juggernauted up because they suddenly had this big black 30-foot long car. So it's fun to see the new one that comes out every time, right? So I'll go to Ralph's, our store here, our grocery store, and they have a huge selection of stuff. But I got friends that work there now, and they'll get a call saying, "Hey, you have this?" I'm like, "Yeah, I got that one." So as far as movie cars go, there hasn't been a movie out in a while to get a new one necessarily that really stands out. I got quite a number of the last Batman, but unfortunately, most of them are the more expensive ones. Still the same car. You get one just like, but the packaging is different, so it's like $8 or something. So I have actually, this is probably my favorite. Hold on. You can see this here.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, this is probably my favorite.
Got that, and I've got it in chrome too.
Oscar Mayer Wienermobile.
Frankie Frankerson Mobile.
Yeah.
Nope.
Frank. You see what that says? It doesn't say the
Frankmobile.
Frank Mobile. It says Oscar Mayer Wienermobile. Yeah, and with a registered trademark. So
Yeah.
if I could just get the Wiener Man to sign this, I'd be golden. But I don't know who that is.
Yeah. Well, Oscar Mayer, of course, wherever he is.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, exactly. So, and that's what we're doing at the store. I mean, I want people to go into the Shopify store and type in almost any car that they can perceive and get a series of mugs or stickers or something that's really fun. And I'm getting a tremendous amount of feedback for different things. And I figure one car a day, that's 365 cars a year. I do that for 5 years.
Yeah, that's a lot of cars.
And I got several thousand vehicles in there. And I love to draw. So I'm excited every day to wake up and say, what am I going to do today? And I ask people, what movie car should I do next? And they say, oh, do this one from this movie. I'm like, I don't even know what that movie is.
Yeah,
that's saying something.
No one's so like the Wraith. You guys remember the Wraith?
That
TV show.
Dodge. It was a Dodge concept car that they used. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I did that one, and that guy bought that mug, and that was.
I might have to get a Wraith mug now.
So
2 mugs,
but I don't care. I don't care. I just think it's fun. And
no, we're gonna have a Stump Fireball game next episode.
Yeah, that would be a good game. Stump Fireball, like to do a movie car game, a Stump Fireball, and show you a car from a movie and see if you can figure out what movie it's from.
Oh yeah.
We'll have
I'd
to
like
go
to
deep.
do that. But I do have a proposition for you
Sure.
guys.
Buy me dinner first.
A proposition. Because I think we need to have, we do need to have some kind of diecast breakdown mug that is designed or concepted by your fans, so that we could have a logo on the mug, but have them pick the one car that exemplifies you guys as a diecast. Maybe it's a Hot Wheels that they pick.
1993 Saturn.
Yeah, exactly. So, and
I was just gonna say it's gonna be a Saturn or a 510.
if you guys will ask your fans, what car best exemplifies Diecast Breakdown as a diecast, it has to come out it has to have had to come out as a diecast. Then we'll make a mug available and get those mugs to you guys, so you have something to drink out of.
Heck yeah. Get on board, guys.
Love it. Yeah, absolutely. So leave your comments now, folks. Leave them in the comments. What diecast
I'm
you think?
telling you.
I like the Saturn. I think the
Gosh,
Saturn's cool.
please.
There was a Hot Wheels Saturn for a little
Ion.
bit. They did one for the New York Auto Show. It was the Ion, yeah. And I had one, and I ended up selling it, and now I'm kicking myself for selling it.
Why are you kicking yourself for selling it?
Well,
Proud of
because
you.
then I could wave it in front of David every now and then and be like, "Look at this."
You couldn't.
It's not his Saturn though. But wow, well that's a really cool idea, and again, really just a delight, absolutely, to spend some time with you, Fireball. I know you've got a lot going on, and we're running over now, so I don't want to keep you too much longer.
No worries.
But again, before we get wrap things up, I wanted to remind folks that you can not only buy stuff on Fireball's Shopify store, but you can also, if you're somewhere where a Barnes & Noble is still standing, which they just opened up 20 new locations, I read somewhere.
Yep.
So good for them. If you go into one of those 20 new locations or existing locations, you might just see a Fireball coloring book on the shelf.
The Shopify store is fireballtimgarage.art.
Yeah, and get a movie car calendar for 2024. They're cool.
Yeah.
And we'll be linking to that in the show notes. But that's, again, please go support Fireball's art. It's fantastic. I've got several of them hanging on my wall. I've got my prize piece is an autographed Batmobile print that was from the old store. Really glad I've got that on my wall. And one of our lucky viewers, Andrew over in Switzerland, got the other one that was part of that giveaway when we first did that. We need to bring the giveaways back.
Anytime you guys want to do that, I'm on board. But let me push up one small thing before you go, and that is that if we do a Diecast Breakdown mug, I think it should be three different designs, one for each one of you guys. So have your fans say what each one of you guys will drive, and I'll do illustrations for each one of those.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh boy.
Oh man, come on! You guys have to get on board with this.
Yeah. That's the reason, because I want to draw that car.
I'm nervous now. Well, we know Mark's going to get the 510, but then I don't know. You
never know.
You turn it over to the comments and you end up with Kari McCarface or something. but yeah. Well, did you hear about that when there was a contest in England where they were supposed to name one of the new ships in the Navy, and the winning vote was Bodie McBoatface
by like a landslide too.
Genius.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, gotta love it. Well, and thank you. Speaking of love, for sharing the love with us, Fireball, and thank you everyone who's watching, listening, wherever you are, for sticking around for the end of the show and hanging out with us. We are so grateful for the folks that are hanging out with us. And again, please visit drivendreams.org. Mark is working like hell to get 20,000 cars to kids in need. We are over 12,000 cars deep at this point.
12,060 something, right?
And I really want to see us hit that 20K by the end of the year. I think that's a really cool cause. I think it's totally doable. Again, we went from, what was it? What was the first year, Mark? Was it 4,000? 4,600?
4,700 cars first year. Like,
yeah.
Are they all in the package? Are they loose or both?
No, they're all packaged cars.
The brand new package cars, because most we're taking these cars and we're donating them to local charities to food banks, to that sort of thing. So usually most of those places prefer new products for obvious reasons, for safety reasons, for quality reasons.
But
I'm
going to start doing some loose stuff.
Okay.
I've found some places that'll take that kind of stuff. So for people that have like massive collections of loose stuff within this next year, I'll be figuring that out. So,
and we've had some amazing results. Some people who are remaining anonymous have donated. One person, what was that? Over 1,000 cars?
3,000.
Wow.
3,000 cars.
Awesome.
One person donated 3,000 cars,
which
was super cool.
Very cool.
Yep.
And
then someone donates one car, I'm equally excited, because if every collector out there donates one car, that's several million cars that are getting...
Especially if it's a 510.
Yeah. Pry one out of my dead hands.
Get rid of those.
Yeah, there are 15 million Hot Wheels collectors out there. And as Fireball said, very appropriately, you're having a bad day, you see a Hot Wheels car, it somehow brightens it. And there's some amazing psychology behind that I hope to dive into on another show. But yeah, again, please check out Fireball's shop. What's that address again, Fireball?
FireballTimGarage.art.
Yes, FireballTimGarage.art. Go check it out. It'll be in the link in the show notes. Please check it out. Please buy lots of mugs and stickers and all kinds of great stuff from him so he can keep being encouraged to turn out the amazing artwork that he's doing. And if you get a chance, be sure to leave a comment about what car represents each of us. I am scared, but optimistically nervous about it. So we'll see what y'all come up with. Let us know in the comments. And while you're down there, be sure to check out drivendreams.org. And if you want to support the show, visit diecastbreakdown.com or click the join button down below. And then even if you can't give, please like, share, subscribe, especially share. That's a really great way to grow this channel. We're getting a lot of traction because people are sharing the show, and I'm so grateful to that. People that are leaving the 5-star reviews on their favorite podcasting app. That's another great way to get this show boosted, and next month we might make $15. Who knows? So we're really grateful to all of that, and grateful to you, and grateful for a conclusion to another epic show. Thank you, Fireball. We're looking forward to having you on again real soon. And
thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. So until next time, stay fresh, cheese bags.
Thanks for listening to Diecast Breakdown. If you enjoyed today's show, please rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and tell a friend to listen in. Find Diecast Breakdown on your favorite social media platforms or visit diecastmedianetwork.com to learn more about this and our other projects. Diecast Breakdown is a presentation of Flying Valiant and the Diecast Media Network.